Good morning, I'm Randy, the Cheap Audio Man. And this morning we're going to compare a couple of speakers. But first, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. I've got a lot of videos. We're just now kind of building the channel. I think we have 55 subscribers. So be one of those first 100. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, grab a cup of coffee, come on in, and let's talk about audio. So this is the ELAC debut B6.2, second generation. This is a Klipsch RP600M. Both of these are a very popular speaker. This one is almost legendary status from being universally loved. And I did a comparison between the ELAC debut reference against the Klipsch RP600M yesterday. And they're both fantastic speakers, and they're both roughly around the $600 range, depending upon when things are on sale. These right now are $280. These right now actually are $430. It's the lowest I've ever seen these, $430. So if you're interested, I'd pull the trigger. If you're interested in these and you live in the US, you can go to ELAC, their outlet, ELAC USA outlet. They're $207. Yeah, anyway, very, very, very good prices for both. Anyway, I was listening to these last night because I was going to do, and I probably still will do, a comparison between the ELAC debut reference and the ELAC debut 6.2. They're both front ported, and they're both in the same line. And it kind of occurred to me last night when I was listening to it that these don't sound as much like the debut reference as they sound like the Klipsch RP600M. I mean, they even kind of look the same. They're exactly the same width. This one's about an inch shorter. They weigh nearly exactly the same. Only difference, front port, rear port. You can see here. This one can also be bi-amped. How big of a deal that makes is ultimately up to you and your amp, I imagine. Oh, don't get me wrong. This is a handsome speaker, and I'd say maybe more attractive. It depends on what you want. But you'd think this one would be built better. You'd think. This one's actually braced better. This one actually has a more inert cabinet. All right, to the sides. More inert, more braced. What does that mean? You don't have as many resonances. It's kind of crazy when you consider that this is, by all accounts, a very premium speaker, even for Klipsch. I mean, until you get into the Klipsch Heresy line, which is uber expensive, this is a top of the line speaker, and I think Klipsch would say that. It's kind of surprising to me that the build quality isn't, not the build quality, but the bracing of the cabinet is not as good as a entry-level ELAC. So similarities, brace, looks. Okay, so let's talk about the sound. Again, last night I was listening to this, and these ELACs are more forward than this one, particularly is more forward than its younger brother, or older brother, excuse me, the ELAC debut reference B6. And it's more forward than the debut reference. Very reminiscent of the Klipsch. The Klipsch has better mid-range. And when I say better, I mean more consistent across the mid-range. If there's anything, there's a slight bump in the upper mid-range where female vocals would be. The Klipsch RP600M does female vocals very well. This almost has what I would say, to my ear, it's kind of a almost lower right before it gets to the treble range. So the upper mid-range on this one is not as good. I'm not saying it's bad, especially for its price. It's not bad at all. But this one sounds better, and it should sound better. It's twice as expensive, if not more than twice as expensive. Bass is similar, depending upon where you put it against the wall. Obviously, with the rear port, you're going to have this one out from the wall more than this one. However, this one has a lot more placement options. You can get it very close to wall, up to 6 inches, maybe even less than 6 inches, and it actually sounds better closer to wall than it does further out from a wall, which is good for people that have placement issues or want to put a speaker up against the wall if they have it on top of a TV stand or something. From a tone perspective, the Klipsch is more natural. Again, it should be. It's twice as expensive, but this one's not far off. The tone is, how much do instruments sound like instruments? How much does a voice sound like a voice? The Klipsch is more natural. Klipsch, or the ELAC, just kind of missing something at the top of the range, in mid-range, compared to the ELAC. And the ELAC seems to be somewhat finicky about the recordings. Some recordings just sounded amazing. Other recordings still sounded good, but just there's something special about certain recordings. The Klipsch doesn't seem to mind. It still sounds pretty consistent regardless of the recording. But it just kind of, I don't know, shocked me, thinking that this ELAC is more like a Klipsch than it is like the other ELACs. It's kind of an outlier, what I would say, in the debut range of ELAC, and I'm going to do a dedicated video to that. But I'm going to call this guy the cheap man's Klipsch RP600M. I think you get 85% of what the RP600M is at half the price. These image very similarly. They soundstage very similarly. And actually, I think this one images ever so slightly better than the Klipsch. So it's built better, it images better. It sounds great on specific recordings. It sounds just as good as the Klipsch on specific recordings, not all recordings. There's a lot going for this speaker, but it's more similar to a Klipsch than it is to an ELAC, and that's what kind of blows me away. So if you just really want the Klipsch 600 M600 RP, and you've heard them or something, and you really love them, and you can't afford it, look at the ELACs. If you're in the US, they're $207 on the outlet. I don't get anything off that. They're about $280 on Amazon. I got these for $250. It was an Amazon warehouse deal. So you can dig into the app or the link and look there. Both of these will be linked in the description. But it's surprising to me how similar these two speakers are. And it really feels like this one is the debut reference to this one. Like, this one is the debut, and this one should feel like the debut reference. This one just sounds so much like the Klipsch RP600M. So, if you like this video, please like it. Please subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to have a lot more videos coming out. I think this morning I'm going to do a comparison between the debut reference and the ELAC Unify UB5s, the first generation. So, go enjoy some music today. Sit back, listen, have a good time. Don't worry about your equipment. Worry about the music. And with that, I'm Randy, the Cheap Audio Man.